You've heard that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
I just can't pick it out right now.
Anyway, figured it out by ear, so I got better. I did level up. So can't do that. Go jam Alfred and the Ted Nader's new Jamcast single, available everywhere.
Good. Then you can help me figure out this part too for B modes, and then we'll be done.
Whoa, you tabbed out B modes, dude?
That's all this is.
Shit. Look at that.
That's not done yet, though. Like, I still got to do this part right here, which is fucking... It's just the program fucks me up.
Yeah, because you got to actually
the
musically
spacing.
notate it.
Yeah, I mean, it's close. Like
a dotted eighth note.
Anyway. Yeah, it's close. I also need to change it from distorted guitar to just a clean guitar. I don't know why it's all distorted. I'll figure all that out. But
Cool.
I'm almost done.
It right there and let me hear it, or you don't want to reveal it?
Yeah, I don't care. It's just all in distorted guitar, which it shouldn't be. But it should be pretty close to what it is. The bend sounds stupid, like I was saying.
Okay, cool. It works.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely figure out the song from that.
Yeah, definitely.
This part's where it gets a little squirrely at the end here, but you'll help me get this part down. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember that part. So... Sure, man.
The timing feels weird on it.
It's a little off.
It's somewhere, so...
Wait.
We'll figure it out.
Let it stay right there.
I mean, I have the demo pulled up in Logic and just kind of went back and forth from the demo to this to make sure it sounded pretty close. Like the 9 is hanging a little long.
Yeah. Stop it.
It's like the 9 is hanging a little long right there, but
it seems like it's a quarter note. That's what's weird.
But I have it set at a quarter note.
Yeah,
it's set at a quarter note. But I mean, if I make it any shorter, I mean, this is what it sounds like as an eighth note. That's too short, so I feel like it's got to be a quarter note.
Play it again.
Ah, fuck.
It might be a dotted eighth note.
Because, I mean, the recording, I have it right here. Fuck it. Might as well play it. And it starts like, somewhere like right here.
Can't hear it.
Can't hear that?
No, I think the output of Logic will have to be changed as well.
Oh, good. Fuck it. You know the demo. Anyway, but yeah, it's coming along. It's almost done. I just got to do that riff and then the riff after that, and the rhythm part's easy, and it's done. I'll send it to you.
I mean, what's so weird is that looks correct though. The quarter note. Dun, dun.
I know
it is correct. I think it's the second note, maybe.
I think it's just too robotic feeling. It doesn't have the swing that we have when we play it live.
No, it's definitely not. I don't think it's the feel. There's an anomaly going on.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out.
Play it one more time.
All right.
Time. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. What is the third note? Is that an eighth note?
No, it's a 16th note, and then an eighth note, and then a quarter note. Dun, dun. That part's right. Dun, dun. The only part that feels off to me is just how long this in between this 9 and that part feels off
Oh, you know what it is?
to me. What?
It is a dotted eighth note. It's not a full quarter note.
Okay, so change this. How would I put that in there? A dotted eighth note would be
change it
eighth
to
note.
and then press period. Right?
Oh, period?
Yeah, try pressing period. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's going to be basically an...
Yeah. So a dotted eighth note, what is that?
It's an eighth note with an extra half duration of an eighth note. So it's an eighth note with the 16th. So it's 3/4 of a quarter note.
Got it.
And if you that third 8 is right after the next downbeat. Dun dun ticka dun dun. So it's not actually if you see what I'm saying. It seemed like a quarter note because it's dun gung gung.
Yeah.
On that, but it's actually like a split second before. Yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. Good job, Dylan. See, this was a productive podcast after all.
And also, that red means that your notes don't equal your time signature.
Yeah,
so something
which I just put this in free time, so I didn't have a time signature set.
Dun, 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 dun.
Maybe this part coming over.
Well, if that last 8, that is a whole note.
Yeah.
So you have
maybe that's a
quarter note, and then delete those eighth note rests. And that'll be 6/4. So now it's correct, but those extra 2 notes will make you have to turn that into like you know what I'm saying? Like you got a time signature out all the little sections.
Or just leave it in free time and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
No?
What's free time? What do you mean?
Like when you actually choose bar or whatever and you go to time signature. Oh, wait. No, free time is like it.
I mean, I know what you mean, but like the setting, because you could run into some problems with that because everything can jumble up on one line and you can't even see the notes. If you,
well, it still acts like it's divided in whatever. We'll figure this out later. This is probably boring as shit to listen to. So,
are that 12/12 and the 8/9 extra notes? Oh, the 12/12 is an extra 2. Dun, 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 dun. Is the 12/12 supposed to be?
It's supposed to do that. That's the riff.
It's after the quarter, and then it starts over at that next 8.
Mm-hmm.
Dun, 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 dun. Okay, stop it. Make that first section a 7/4, and then put that 12/12 after your quarter note. And then we can move on after this.
Comme ça?
Yeah. Yeah. Boom.
Cool.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is the whole thing in 7/4?
I don't remember. I don't really remember. I have to go listen.
Cool.
It's not because we mess around with that extra 12. We'll do 2 of them one time and this and that.
You're right. So I'm gonna have to do the time signature on every single bar. That's okay.
Yeah, you get faster at it though, man.
It's okay. Cool. Well, thanks for walking me through that. That helps it go a little quicker. Cool.
Bum, 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 bum. Do you walk it right there?
Yep.
Dun, 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 dun. So that's 5/4, which those equal 12/4. So you actually could have done 2 6/4s, but if you do,
that's how I originally had it set was 6/4,
Right. So it would technically work, but if you want to keep it organized, that section is one.
I'd rather keep it organized.
Like that's a 7/4, and then it starts over and we do a 5/4. You know what I'm saying?
And it just does that over and over, but I feel like it changes like the second time we go through it too.
It does. Just notate it out when you get to that part. I don't remember.
I'm going to have to just count it out as I'm listening to the demo.
Oh, man, this is going to be so cool.
And I probably need to go back and fix this part too.
That sounded good, but it was just muddy.
Yeah.
Like, so Shift P is mute pick. I see you doing the X's, but if you do Shift P, it'll actually dun.
Sounds way better. Sounds way better. The little subtle things.
Yeah.
I know I've tabbed a couple things out before, but just done it for like notation purposes, not to like sound good in the program or whatever. So like just so I could remember how to play shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do need to get better with the program. That way we can use it to write more, actually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It works for me. Yeah.
Cool.
That sounds good, man.
Sweet.
That sounds good.
Cool, man. Anyway, so I didn't want you to think I was not working on that.
Awesome.
I got some work done on that this week.
You know, that's crazy that you did that because I yesterday booked all day tomorrow, 16 hours at the practice studio by my house. So I'm going to set my drums up in the morning. I'm going to go walk these dogs. I'm going to grab some food, and then I'm going there all day and just playing. So perfect timing to get this ball. I mean, not saying I'm going to record that right now, but
yeah, no, I mean, just getting shit going. I've stuck to my commitment of like, you know, I told myself I was going to fucking play every day. Hope at least try to shoot for an hour a day. And I've been sticking to that pretty consistently. I mean, I haven't missed really since before the new year. So.
All right. So on one of our recent episodes, it was discussed about the Epipaleolithic to the Neolithic transition, Neolithic Revolution, mainly based around the Younger Dryas Impact event, which 12,800 BC is evidence of a huge impact event that basically wiped out half of the Northern Hemisphere. And I'm going to share something here with you. Do you see that?
Yes. So that's map of the Levant.
That is the Levant, the Middle East, and this is where civilization started. We're going to recap, but you can go back and listen to that episode for more details. But right here, Tel es-Sultan is Jericho, and Jericho was one of the first cities built after civilization reemerged, because there was the impact at 12,800 that destroyed the ice sheets, and then followed 1,200 years of a mini ice age where it got even colder. And the reason for that is because all of the debris and smoke and everything in the sky from the explosions blocked out the sun.
And also, I think the
acid rain.
Well, and then you had the meltwater from glaciers flooding the seas, fucking with the temperature of the seas and the currents, which affect weather patterns, and essentially led to that 1,200 year mini ice age,
combined with a sky filled with
combined with acid rain, a sky filled with ash, so hell on earth.
Basically, that impact happened, and there's evidence for that. And 1,200 years passed, and after that 1,200 years, it was now 10,000. Is that 9,000?
10,800.
The impact happened at 10,800?
No, let's see. I have it in the notes right here. Sometime around 10,800 BC is when the impact happened.
So that's 12,600 years before present. So, okay, so that makes sense. 10,800 BC is when it happened, and then 9,600 BC, 1,200 years later, is when society reemerged. And that's at the same time Jericho was built. Society reemerged and built Jericho, which was surrounded by a huge stone wall had a big lookout, and apparently they were looking out for something. And the theory is this was to stop floodwaters that they just got destroyed by. And there's another settlement called Tell Abu Hureyra up here in the middle, and that's what we're going to get into a little bit right now. Because at Tell Abu Hureyra is evidence of what can only happen when a major comet impact takes place, because it's essentially a nuclear blast. And
dude, yeah, the description of like what they found, it made me, kind of relive and think, like, what if you were living in Tell Abu Hureyra when that air blast occurred? Like, what was that like? Dude. And just...
Yeah, it was an air blast because a lot of these fragments basically exploded in the air.
Right.
And blasted over it.
Scorched the earth below it.
Yeah, and real quick, there is a location down here by Tel Es Sultan. It is called a type site or something.
Yeah, it's where they were able to determine the specific characteristics of certain ancient cultures.
Yeah, so the first signs of the first people in modern history came from here in the Palestinian West Bank. And they were the basically the Natufians. These are notes that I'm remembering while I'm recapping the last episode. Again, go listen to that episode. But this is where it all started. They built Jericho. They built Tell Abu Hureyra, and they also built Göbekli Tepe, which we're building up to, which that's the kind of the big question mark, is these epipaleolithic cultures, which is pre-ceramic, pre-agriculture, pre-animal husbandry, pre-science, pre-civilization in modern history. These cultures were still basically stone aged. And
right.
After they survived, 9600, a few hundred years after that, Göbekli Tepe was built. And then the Neolithic Revolution took place, where science and agriculture and all that stuff changed the world. And you can get into some fringy conspiracies about that, because Göbekli Tepe appears to be a place where a transfer of knowledge took place from people who had ancient knowledge, because, as we're going to talk about today, there were societies and civilizations that existed before this impact 15,000 plus years ago. And they had, what evidence they can find of that, some of the most sophisticated artwork, design, and civilizations as well. So modern history starts at like 9600 BC, after people reemerged after the 1200-year fuck up. So before all that, we'll get into all those cultures, but Tell Abu Hureyra has signs of basically what's called vitrification, where the nuclear air blast creates like microspherules and nano diamonds,
molten grass.
Molten grass.
Yeah, it was one of the descriptions of. Well, hold on. That's in the article you sent me, actually.
All right, the website is showing now on.
Okay.
For the video, here's an aerial view of Abu Hureyra, and E, G, and D on the map are trenches where they found evidence of this blast. These other black squares represent trenches where they didn't find anything. But this is one of the first civilizations by the Euphrates River impacted or affected. Did you have those notes, Jesse?
Yeah, I have them. So I had just read this today when you sent it to me, so I didn't get a chance to look too much into it. But the archaeological site that they're referring to, is that underneath water now due to a dam that they built? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, they built the dam. I'm trying to find the...
So, because it says, before Takaba Dam impounded the Euphrates River in northern Syria in the 70s, an archaeological site named Abu Hureyra bore witness to the moment an ancient nomadic people first settled down and started cultivating crops. A large mound marks the settlement, which now lies under Lake Assad. Before the lake formed, they were able to carefully extract and describe much material, including parts of houses, food, and tools, an abundance of evidence that allowed them to identify the transition to agriculture nearly 12,800 years ago. Underneath all the cereals and grains and building materials was melt glass, which could only be achieved with temperatures far higher than what humans could achieve at that time, or could even be attributed to fire, lightning, or volcanism. So that's pretty damning evidence of a climate or cosmological based event, because based on those characteristics, you know, while it's rare to find melt glass and these nuclear nanoparticles and everything in the environment in general, it's very common at common impact sites.
Yeah, and it's found like around the world in other areas, like Belgium. And
now, those areas you're describing, there's such a thing known as the Younger Dryas boundary, strewn field, which encompasses some 30 sites in America, Europe, and parts of the Middle East. And they hold evidence of, you know, massive burning, including a carbon-rich black matte layer, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit, that contains millions of nanodiamonds, high concentrations of platinum, and tiny metallic spherules that are formed at very high temperatures. So, and they, I don't know if you looked into this at all, but it says that the impact hypothesis has gained more traction because they also uncovered a very young impact crater beneath the Hawaii Glacier of Greenland ice sheet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, while this was once kind of like a hypothesis, we keep continuing to find more and more and more evidence of this Younger Dryas impact theory.
Yep, that's all for that article. I was letting you do that because my stuff was
okay. Sorry, I didn't know if I went
good.
too quick through some stuff, but
you're good. I was trying to find my PDF. So basically, it's not a wildfire that did this. This is nuclear. I heard conspiracies a while back. There's some guys out there that say that there was a nuclear war and we were bombed by like a race from, because there's nuclear evidence. And if you don't know that comets will make a nuclear blast, it's very compelling.
Sure.
It's very
But usually the more boring answer is the right one. The guy who found this, Kennett, said the critical materials are extremely rare under normal temperatures, but are commonly found during impact events. According to the study, the melt glass was formed from nearly instantaneous melting and vaporization of regional biomass, soils, and floodplain deposits, followed by instantaneous cooling. Could you imagine, like, being at Abu Hureyra when that happened? Instantaneous melting and vaporization of regional biomass. That doesn't sound fun.
That's such a detached way to look at all life. When it gets destroyed that much, that fast, that all you can do is refer to it as biomass.
Because you probably can't deter what the difference between the human and the house at that point, because it's just a melted. Yeah, everything's just melted. So he goes on to say a single major asteroid impact would not have caused such widely scattered materials like those discovered at Abu Hureyra. The largest cometary debris clusters are proposed to be capable of causing thousands of air bursts within a span of minutes across one entire hemisphere of Earth. The YDB hypothesis proposed this mechanism to account for the widespread dispersal coeval materials across more than 14,000 kilometers of the northern and southern hemispheres. Or Abu Hureyra discoveries strongly support a major impact event from such a fragmented comet. Wild.
Yeah. And that recent volcano that happened, that Tonga. Bro. It's just one volcano.
That's
nuts. And the whole thing about climate change, about it being part of the solar cycle and the magnetic axis of the Earth fluctuating, is that as that magnetic axis gets further off center, increased volcanicity takes place. So you have more volcanic activity.
Uh-oh.
So, I mean, volcanoes erupt, right? But if we are experiencing climate change, and there is an argument that fossil fuels are part of it, but it's not people driving the cars. The Pentagon contributes as the largest sole violator of whatever the fuck I'm trying to say. The Pentagon,
they're the biggest violators of environmental
pollution.
Yeah,
They pollute. Like, if it's not the people that need to be like carbon taxed so we stop driving to the grocery store, it's the Pentagon that needs to stop testing nuclear bombs and running diesel tanks across the Middle East 24/7.
yeah. I mean, Martin talks about this a good bit, doesn't she?
Yeah, and like 140 of the largest corporations are the next in line. So, but solar cycle is a real part of it. So if that's happening and solar cycle is a part of it, which I do believe it is, then we're going to see more volcanoes and all these earthquakes that were happening. And I wonder, dude, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Remember, I might have said this before. Remember all the tornadoes and shit that happened in Carolina and stuff recently?
Yeah, I do remember. Horrific. And in Kentucky, horrific.
I think the lady governor of Kentucky or one of those states, her and Biden came out at the same time saying this is because of climate change. The infrastructure bill could have stopped this, is what Biden said. That's why I made that joke on Twitter about he said it, man. You can go find the video. He said the infrastructure bill could have stopped this. We're going to, I'm quoting, we are going to continue to see more of this unless something is done about climate change. And I'm thinking, how would the infrastructure bill stop that? Number two, how do you know more of this is going to happen? How do you know it's not just a bad storm? Because some storms are just bad. I mean, we were out of power for a week in like 2003 for a hurricane, and it hasn't happened again since where I'm from. But like, was that not climate change? It was just a bad storm. So I'm just saying, how do we know? How does he know this? And
he
how does he know it's going to?
I think it was a poor choice of words.
Weather modification. That's what I'm trying to get at. I'm really bad at.
You think they're modifying the weather?
If he's using it to sell his infrastructure bill and he knows it's going to keep happening until then, we know they have weather modification technology.
I was going to say, is it true that they can make it rain in Abu Dhabi and shit like that?
100%. That's the whole DARPA program. They used weather modification for the Chinese Olympics. Like they used it for the Chinese Olympics in like 2008 to manipulate the weather so they could keep having the game. Like, this is used. They have the technology. And that's
a conspiracy rabbit hole. Maybe I'll go down, because I mean, that's like part of that is common knowledge, right? Like I said,
why the fuck would you not be saying, hey, we're going to help y'all out because y'all just got fucked? Why would you be trying to sell your infrastructure bill, fear mongering that it's going to keep happening unless y'all... There was no solution other than, hey, sell my infrastructure bill. This is going to keep happening.
Yeah,
I think they're fucking with weather. Cold. I really do. I really do, because the fires.
You think that Tonga volcano had anything to do with it?
I don't know.
How deep we going, Dylan? Volcanic eruptions? Can they control that?
Look, I'm not saying I think everything that happens, but when Biden and another governor come out and sell an infrastructure bill and promise more of this is going to happen because climate change, it's very suspect to me, because how the fuck do you know? And why are you worried about They're not doing that for the Tonga volcano. So there's no red flags over there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just it's
like Bill Gates coming out, years before the pandemic, talking prophetically about how there's going to be a major pandemic and vaccines are going to be the savior.
Yeah. So anyway, Epipaleolithic populations that would have taken the full force of the cataclysm included the Clovis culture of North America. So let's go through this slowly. I have tabs ready. We're going to go through this slowly.
Clovis culture, which just disappeared suddenly. We don't know how. I think they migrated south to the South America because they found some evidence, of migration, but then they just suddenly disappeared off the face of the earth. Still a mystery to this day of what happened. Although, I mean, if we were to draw conclusions from this book, we would say that probably had something to do with the Younger Dryas Impact. The Magdalenian peoples. But go ahead. You have more on the Clovis culture?
No, but you were going on and I liked it. I was hoping you'd keep going.
That's all I have.
That's all you have? So
I just looked into like reading through some of the cultures. I looked into like how did the Clovis culture end? And long story short, it's a mystery. You know, they started to migrate. Let me see if I have an article on that.
It appears around 11,500 to 11,000 RCYBP, whatever that means, at the end of the last glacial period. That sentence didn't make any sense. Sorry. Clovis culture is a prehistoric Paleo-American culture named for distinct tools found in close association with Pleistocene fauna. Pleistocene near Clovis, New Mexico. So if we go back to those pictures, you can, God damn it. I love that picture. There's a city in New Mexico called Clovis. I saw it on the map. Yeah. So before, like 15,000 years ago plus, the Clovis were living in America and they disappeared all of a sudden at the impact, right? When the impact happened. Because that's what we're talking about.
Yes, the impact
would have taken the full
cultures
force.
that would have been affected, the ancient cultures that would have been affected by the impact that we know of from evidence around that time, carbon dating and so on and such forth.
Clovis people are considered to be the ancestors of most of the indigenous peoples of America. Okay. So like Native American Indians, right?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so we can move on from that. So that's in North America. And behind me is the YDB, the Younger Dryas boundary. It doesn't fit the full screen, but you can see how it's like a lot of places in North America and in the West over here. But these are locations where they found evidence of the impact at the same time, as well as the black mat layer. We'll get into that. Who else was affected? The Magdalenian peoples of southwestern Europe. Magdalenians. Look, Jason Momoa right there. You know he's Magdalenian.
How was Jason Momoa Magdalenian?
Look at that picture I'm screen sharing. That doesn't look like Jason Momoa?
Oh, let me go look.
Look at this guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's definitely Magdalenian.
Oh, for sure. So this is the location. What is that? Italy, north of Italy, down into
Europe,
Spain.
basically.
Yeah, southwestern Europe, all that. So the Magdalenian people were affected. Let's read a little bit about them. The Magdalenian culture are later cultures of the Upper Paleolithic and Mesolithic in Western Europe. In case you don't know, Upper Paleolithic means towards the end of the Paleolithic, which is like 9600 BC, 10 after the cataclysm and all that. That's Upper Paleolithic. And Mesolithic represents that little window where they're transitioning from the Paleolithic to the Neolithic. And the Magdalenian cultures were of the Upper Paleolithic. They date from 17,000 to 12,000 years ago.
Jeez.
It's named after the type site of La Madeleine, a rock shelter located in the Vézérie Valley, France's Dormant. Magdalenian tools and weapons. Look at that nasty saw that they made right there.
That doesn't look like an effective saw.
If you hit somebody in the neck with it, I bet it would be effective.
Yeah, but like if I'm thinking like I'm trying to saw something with that, doesn't look effective.
Yeah, right. I guess I should have been more specific.
So Magdalenian culture disappeared as the cool near glacial climate warmed at the end of the fourth glacial period, circa 10,000 BC, and herd animals became scarce. It has been suggested that the complexity of the later cave art represents an attempt by Magdalenian man using sympathetic magic to cause animals to once more become abundant. So they think that they died at the end of, somewhere around 10,000 BC due to lack of nutrition, basically, because they couldn't get animals. Which, hey, to me sounds like something that would be caused by a common impact when it wipes out most species of large animals and humans.
What's this picture right here, dude? Goddess. God damn it. Goddess archetype ancestor shapes. relating to the three realms and moon phases, waxing, full, and waning moon, as well as relating to heaven, earth, and underworld. There's an illustration on the screen. Egypt around 7,000 to 6,000 years ago, representing this picture.
Okay.
This is interesting. I don't know what this means, but it looks cool. I thought that would lead to something. So after the Magdalenian peoples, also the Creswellian population of England would have been affected. The Creswellians are known for their soccer talent, as you can see right here. These are an ancient people. Just joking. Google, when you search up Creswell, it brings up a bunch of soccer players. The Creswellian is a British Upper Paleolithic culture named after the type site of Creswell Crags in Derbyshire by Dorothy Garrett in 26. So there's not any good pictures of them other than soccer players. The Brahmian culture, which was interesting.
Soccer players.
Yeah, the Brahmian culture is also known as the Arensberg culture. 12,900 to 11,700 BP was a late Upper Paleolithic nomadic hunter culture in north central Europe during the Younger Dryas. And that looks to be where Belgium is. And we're going to get into Belgium because that's one of the most popular.
The Fettermessers.
Yeah, the Fettermessers. So what's next? The Brahmian
and then
culture.
After the Brahmian, it is the Natufians, which you've already talked about.
Yeah, the Natufians.
The Natufians were would have been located, at Abu Hureyra and sites in that area.
Yeah, here's a good little map of the Palestinian West Bank showing them again, as well as the Swiderian groups, which are located also close to Belgium. Here's a map. Swiderian culture is an Upper Paleolithic Mesolithic culture complex centered on the area of modern Poland. So a lot of Europe and a lot of ancient North America was completely destroyed. All would have been devastated by the Younger Dryas, with only the cleverest and most resilient human societies surviving to tell the tale. So how do they know this happened other than vitrification, nanodiamonds, microspherules, and all of that from the air blast? How is there any evidence?
We're about to get into that. You have evidence like what's found at the Uccello horizon. So basically, we've been talking a lot about Belgium and some of the early human populations that would have been affected by the Younger Dryas, and a lot of them are in Belgium. One of them was the Fettermesser traditions. When they were an advanced culture with their unique tool-making industry, and they populated low countries of Europe, including Belgium, the Netherlands, and Denmark, during a 2,000-year warm phase known as the Allerod Interstadial, which followed the end of the last ice age around 13,000 BC. So they created very unique art pieces, beautiful stone tools, some of which are considered the most accomplished artifacts of the Epipaleolithic age. And they're found with frequency in thick loess, which is basically sandy soil that's left behind by the retreat of the ice sheets that had covered much of the Northern Hemisphere for tens of thousands of years. Yet, immediately above the material evidence of the presence at Lommel is an 8-centimeter layer of oily black material. It says C plate 2.
See that picture there?
Yep. It's that line that's going through the middle of it.
Yeah, that black layer. That's basically all of the debris that rained down after everything was shot into the air and it settled. And what's shocking is all of these cultures, the Lommel culture in Belgium especially, like they have evidence of all their pottery and tools
underneath that line,
the layer, and then all of a sudden the layer, and above it nothing.
They find tools, but they're like crude stone tools, nothing that the Fettermessers would have made themselves
above the line,
above that line.
Yeah.
So there's like clear. It's I mean, you can't say it's, a smoking gun. Like, it's obvious that that's what happened. But I mean, yeah, a lot of evidence is pointing to that.
Yeah. I mean, what's archaeology for if not to come up with that conclusion based off this evidence, That's like saying 2 + 2 is 4, but it could be
And
5.
2 +
We'll have
2
to wait
could
till-
equal 5. Yeah. Depends
in a
on.
parallel universe, but we'll have to wait till the evidence comes out that parallel universe exists. It's like this black mat layer. Basically, behind me, all these dots is where there's all this evidence around the world that dates to the same time, this impact of the cultures below it, abruptly over, above it, it's like starting over. And
Crazy.
then as it cools down, consequently, 1,200 years later, these societies with similar, well, I don't want to say that, but these people reemerge in the Levant, in Africa over here, right there. Right there. It's hard for me to zoom.
That's a huge impact field.
Yeah, man.
It's huge. And you can imagine, like, probably the ocean got hit as well, which triggered tidal waves. I mean, I don't think there's anywhere in the world that would have not been affected by it in some way. And that can happen again. We just had a large one pass by us recently, the size of the Empire State Building. That's a couple million miles away, but still.
Really?
Yeah, that's been happening a little bit more lately, I've noticed.
So check this out. Immediately below the black layer, the normally yellow loess is bleached white to a depth of around 45 centimeters. According to Kloosterman, who sadly died shortly after our meeting, because I'm reading from this book, this bleaching was either caused by the effects of the acid rain created by the aerial debris from the wildfires, or it was the direct result of an air blast directly above the area. Kloosterman was at that time analyzing the chemical makeup of the Oesello horizon from a number of locations in Belgium and the Netherlands to determine a definitive answer to this mystery. Yeah.
Crazy.
45 centimeters of it being bleached white from how much it exploded.
Exploded, acid rain. Nuts. He goes on to say that he suspects that it would have been the same around many parts of the ancient world, that, advanced human societies that had once thrived prior to that the Younger Dryas Common Impact disappearing suddenly, only to be replaced by surviving members with less competent societies that didn't have the knowledge of the ones beforehand. So they had less complicated tools and, just overall common knowledge.
Yeah, and that's consistent whenever you look at the pyramids, because the Great Pyramid of Giza is built the best. Every pyramid after sucks more and more and more. As all of these megalithic structures get closer and closer to
that time period,
the most ancient, they're the best. And as time goes on, that sophisticated megalithic architecture dwindles because people kind of, what's the word?
Well, I mean, when you wipe out like a large percentage, that would be like today if something like that happened and a large percentage of the population got wiped out, and we lost a huge percentage of our engineers, our scientists, our physicists, like highly specialized fields, that would be a problem for human progress.
Right.
And our infrastructure was destroyed, so the sharing of knowledge was no longer possible. That would be a problem.
Yeah, you're right. But there's one thing that strikes me different, and that's that Göbekli Tepe was built after all of that was destroyed. When society reemerged, they still managed to
come together
a massive, accurately, astronomically aligned 3D carves in like 14, and we're going to get into Göbekli Tepe. We're just laying all the groundwork for what's going on at the time it was built and why Göbekli Tepe is important. That is unmatched as time goes on. So Yeah, they lost a lot of their engineers, so to speak, and scientists in the cataclysm, but they still had that knowledge when they reemerged, but it was only for a select few people. And that's where this book starts to get into the theories of shamanism. And that's what shamans were people that had that ancient knowledge and they used it against the people to control them. And they kind of tricked them into thinking about gods and spirits, but really they were hiding, not hiding, I guess, yeah, hiding secret knowledge. But all of the technology and sciences of the pre-existing cultures before the cataclysm, they showed they were advanced as far as civilization and stuff goes. And then that reemerges in Göbekli Tepe. And then I guess only having a few people that know the sacred knowledge.
It's like a centralization of power occurred.
Exactly. So it's like people,
the societies of the time took advantage of a major event, outside of their control and seized all the power and used to control the masses, which, hey, an argument could be made that the same is happening now.
In some way, dude, you can connect today's corruption back to these ancient times when you get into the church and the Vatican and paganism and all the, because what is most fascinating about this to me is that it puts into chronological order in my mind biblical stuff. Like Jericho was built after the Great Flood to survive another great flood. It was one of the first cities, and Jesus didn't come until 9,000 years later, and there's everything in between. And only after Jesus did the Roman church start cracking down on everything that was before: paganism, witches, all the magic, all the sacred. So we live in like a Roman filtered world where pagan is, it's a pagan holiday. Christmas is a pagan holiday. I might support the pagan holiday knowing that it was around for like 10,000 years before Rome decided to get involved. And I'm reading a book right now, and it's like paperwork evidence of the Vatican working with the Nazis to get them passports out of Germany and into Latin America. And they used the Vatican to do it because Hitler and Bormann had contracts with Pope Pius XII. They were making them fake passports, and it was in agreement to make Roman Catholicism the preferred religion of Europe if they get the Nazis out. But once Hitler became anti-Semitic against the Jews, the Pope had to start speaking out because the Jews are his people. And then you had like this rift between Nazis and Israel, which is still going on today. So Israel's way to retaliate against the sanctions that the Nazis put on them, because they were anti-Semitic, but they had an agreement so the church couldn't speak against them, has been to blackmail their way back into power. And you start getting into Epstein and his Israeli connections.
What the fuck?
And his blackmail. That's what I'm saying. Like, this stuff connects back. And I'm not talking conspiracy. I'm talking like an organization. I forgot the name. We'll get into this stuff on later episodes, but just talking about after this catastrophe, somebody had that ancient knowledge that survived. And it was a consolidation of power, and they taught agriculture and science to the people, but they can't maintain it without direct access to the source. So as they get further out, their structures become shittier and shittier, and the sacred knowledge stays hidden under the Sphinx because some world leader got it and keep it to himself. And you literally get into Hitler looking for this stuff, man. Like this connects, man. Like whatever happened at Göbekli Tepe, whatever that is, that transfer of knowledge that led to the Neolithic Revolution, whoever it was that had the knowledge to build it.
Well, it goes into the next part of the book, Catastrophobia, right? This fear that the population was living in at the time, this fragile state of existence. They, you can control people that are in a state of fear much easier than normal, right? So I don't even know that the book makes these inferences, but
I think it lays the groundwork to make those inferences. But that's a great point, the catastrophobia and the fear, because people were afraid. And it's kind of, like memory encodes in our DNA. Like we kind of inherit anxieties and fears from ancestors. Like there's this experiment
the fear
where
of spiders or the fear of snakes.
A picture of a spider or a snake to a baby who's never seen it, and they cry because it's in their system to be afraid.
DNA. Yeah.
So that very well could have been because power, right? The sacred. It makes a lot of sense about how ancient cultures work, talking about gods and spirits and the leaders and the secret knowledge and and all this stuff we see in movies. And realistically, I can see how their world functioned because there was sacred knowledge. They did need it to survive. They were afraid of fire.
The next time
the
next time fire, the god would destroy the earth.
Yeah, and if you're a peasant and you don't have access to the internet, you can only read what they want, if you can even read. But then like some culture that survived underground because they were prepared and powerful before the cataclysm, and then they come out as gods out on the Palestinian West Bank.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
It kind of all ties together, man. It's nuts when you step back and look at it from afar and look at the geological evidence that goes along with it and the archaeological evidence found from the cultures of the time and the ancient texts that, when you start piecing all of the pieces together, it's a weird picture.
Yeah, it's fucking fascinating.
It is fascinating, man.
And I was just saying, whatever happened at Göbekli Tepe could unlock so many questions, potentially up to Jeffrey Epstein, like confirmed, he's part of the satanic occult from thousands of years ago. He's a lizard person. No, I'm making a reach, but
I get you.
Yeah.
Let me just read this last, so this was the last part that we wanted to get through, and I'm getting close to I gotta go feed baby girl here soon. I'm just realizing the time. My bad.
You good?
But the last part I have highlighted in here is just this last part of catastrophobia. So how could you stop people from feeling this way about the fragile existence of humanity and everything at the time? How could you prevent it from eating at the heart of every community every time a comet appeared in the skies? There were no psychoanalysts or counselors back then who could offer advice on the problem. The go-to people would have been considered able to allay the fear of further catastrophes. These were known as shamans, a word originating from Tungus or Evenk, language of Siberia. They acted as intermediaries between the world of the living and a perceived other world existing beyond the normal senses and accessible only through dreams, visions, and achievement of altered states of consciousness. Shamans are able to induce trance-like states to propitiate, appease, or negotiate deals with supernatural creatures seen as responsible for malefic intrusions into the physical world. This includes the appearance in our skies of comets, which in many ancient societies were seen as harbingers of death and destruction. Supernatural creatures of this type were generally considered animistic in form, most obviously monstrous canines, lupines, vulpines, and they were also associated with snakes in myth and legend and are occasionally seen as responsible for natural catastrophes associated with impact events, which we've shown pictures on this podcast before in some like the Randall Carlson episodes of like all of these different ancient sites of like the Clovis people and everything that were shaped like snakes, which kind of indicate this shaman type of teaching of about these cosmic events.
Quetzalcoatl, the flaming
Quetzalcoatl, yeah.
Quetzalcoatl, the flaming serpent or something. Yeah, so that's a really interesting take with the shamans and the fear. Combine that with the sacred knowledge a few people had at the time to launch a Neolithic Revolution and save humanity. And we, not just because of agriculture, but because of Göbekli Tepe. They've been excavating it for like almost a decade, and they've uncovered 5% of the whole thing. And it was intentionally buried. and you get into mud floods, and we should do an episode on that. Göbekli Tepe was intentionally buried. That's one thing they know. We're going to get into that more, but I just wanted to wrap up by saying what the Al-Arad interstadial was, because that was an important thing for me when I was reading. Because all of these ancient cultures before the cataclysm, the Clovis, Swiderian, Cresswellian, the ones we talked about,
better messers.
Their climate was like a glacial period for a long time, like hundreds of thousands of years. Let me just read it. It's right here. I'm so stupid. The Bowling Al-Arad interstadial was an abrupt, warm, and moist interstadial period that occurred during the final stages of the last glacial period. Let me screen share that. I'll be quick, Jesse. I know you got to go.
You good, bro?
The last glacial period was 115,000 to 11,700 years ago.
And then I guess they had that period from 11,700 years ago to 10 to...
Yeah. Okay, so right towards the end of that period, for the last 2,000 years of that whole period, it got warm. So it was really freaking cold, and then it got warm. And the map behind me shows that increase all of a sudden. At the end of that 2,000... the 2,000 years of it warming is called the Al-Arad interstadial. And at the end, so dude, imagine it's cold as fuck, and then finally things are warm, and then you get crashed with the comet, wiped out.
It probably didn't feel instant to them, right? Because it was like 2,000 years, but
exactly. Yeah, good point. But
which why to us, like, to think that we built this great society and
America's been around for 200 and something, 300 maybe?
something years, right?
1776.
That's like fucking nothing. We could get cracked with a comet at any point in time. We wouldn't be able to do shit about it. That's the other thing about this. Like, we would not be able to stop it if one was on the way. And we go through a shooting gallery twice a year.
Yeah. We're probably going through one right now because we've been, like you said, we've been seeing a lot.
We just had a close impact. Yeah, we orbit through a shooting gallery. It's fucking nuts.
Yeah. So just the snapshot of culture, the climate. It was cold. It got pretty warm. They got fucking destroyed after the warming, and then got a mini ice age. So I just to conclude, I think Göbekli Tepe was a profound manifestation of ancient sacred sciences and knowledge that from there was like a college to relay all the sciences that led to the Neolithic Revolution. And as people took that and ran with it, the sacred knowledge that led to that, this is my thoughts, was battled over and is still being battled over. When you're talking about the Ark of the Covenant, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and all these ancient philosophers that talk about sacred sciences from the original gods that are buried below the Sphinx, beneath the paw, all these things, you get into that, there's a lot of truth there to me. That's just me.
It's amazing to me, like, just this whole subject of these ancient cultures, ancient advanced cultures is amazing to me. Just learning the story of like our human history is fascinating the more we really learn about it. And growing up in church and hearing all these biblical stories about these ancient peoples and connecting those dots to like the actual geological and archaeological evidence from those time periods and seeing the full picture is amazing.
Yeah, compartmentalizing it in the proper time frame. Because it wasn't until this I would have thought Jesus and Jericho were at the same time, if Jesus was even real.
Yeah.
You got to wonder, what did people before Jesus do to go to heaven?
Well, they had to make sacrifices to the gods. That was the thing.
Right. I'm with you, man. Consolidation of power.
Until next week.
Until next week.